Alright, I do have a gas blowback M1 Garand on my channel, which is pretty much the same as this. Technically, this is a WE gas blowback M14, but I would consider this more RA tech. I mean, everything on here is pretty much RA tech except for the hop-up chamber. Even the receiver itself is a marked receiver. If I can, boom, right there. So this is technically a WE, but it's mostly RA tech parts now. This is the SOCOM version, so it has the 16-inch barrel instead of the normal full length. This originally was in a EBR Sage International stock, but I was messing around the other day and put it in a stock WE buttstock. So let's see, what first? I'll go over magazines first. So normally I used to run like 9 regular WE M14 mags that were HPA tapped, but for reloads that was really annoying. So I made a high cap mag. So WE M14 mag, HPA tapped, modified with a regular, I don't even know what brand, M14 high cap mag, and connecting the two feed mechanisms is a LMG tube or feed tube from an LMG. You can buy these off of e-bike by like I think a 3-foot section for like 15 bucks, I believe. I do make these for people, so if you do want something like this, you can contact me and we can set up a deal, work out a price and all that. This duct tape is just for now. I do plan on making an actual sort of mag clamp system, so it won't just be tape. It'll look nicer, more professional, but this does work. So this gives you about 450 rounds. Just pour the BBs in here. You can even reload this with this still in the gun. You could just flip this up and pour the BBs in. So that's that mag. Not much to say about it really. It's a lot easier to use. Obviously, I don't like high caps, I like mid caps, but just to make this an actual fieldable gun without having to spend, I think I spent like over $500 on just mags. So I sold off a lot of all those mags pretty much and spent that money on upgrade parts. Alright, on to the rifle. Like I said, it's pretty much all RA tech. So I got RA tech steel trigger group, RA tech receiver, RA tech steel tappet plate. I believe it's an original WE fake bolt cover, but the actual bolt itself is an RA tech steel bolt. RA tech aluminum end pass nozzle to adjust FPS. I believe this is a RA tech M14 mount. It's pretty much all RA tech internally, except for the parts I listed. Op rod, I believe, is RA tech steel 1. RA tech gas assembly with a SOCOM 16 front sight. Unknown muzzle brake I put on here, a compensator, flash hider. This is an original WE heat shield that I modified to look like the early production vented heat shields that you don't really see often, but these were on sort of the first original M14s to be issued. They stopped because it was more fragile, because these were made out of fiberglass, so these were more fragile to break because they were vented. But since this is just molded plastic, it's fine. Just a board project I did, since I have a spare one. So I was like, let me see if I can make a vented one, because I like the vented look. The scope I use is just a Pinty 4-16 by 40 mil dot scope. Pinty makes really good, cheap scopes for airsoft. Real steel, maybe a low power round or low impulse recoil rifle you could put this on, but great for airsoft. Good field of view, obviously. What I like about these specific ones, besides having the mil dot reticle, as you can see, the turrets can be adjusted for windage and elevation externally without having to unscrew the cap and take a coin or whatever to adjust it. So you can zero this rifle, and let's say you're playing on a field and you just have a bunch of wind constantly coming from a certain direction. You can somewhat dial the scope easily and still be able to get back to zero, because it is numbered like a real rifle scope or legit real steel scope. So bring this back to zero. Same for the top turret for elevation. I guess you could use this, let's say you for some reason change out BB weight mid game and you're running heavier BBs, so you need to compensate by rising the muzzle up higher. You could do it for that or whatever, but it's just a nice feature. It looks more real steel and does have some applications. I do plan on getting a different scope mount, sort of a I want one with the QD mounts, the QD lever, and I also wanted a sort of a single canted scope mount. As you can see, I sort of have the scope mounted as far back as I can, but it's hitting the rear scope ring. So for now, it works really well. Obviously, if you have an M14, you know what I'm going to talk about is the height of a scope on an M14. I could try to get a lower mount by a little bit, but still, even with that, with a regular stock, which was only made for iron sights, if you're running iron sights, these stocks are beautiful because they just line up perfectly. But if you're running a scope, you're gonna have a lot higher. So when running these stocks, you need a really thick cheek riser. That's the thing I like about the EBR stock, is that cheek riser is adjustable. But I mean, if I ever do seriously use this as a DMR, I could put it back in EBR stock. But me, I just love the classic fake wood stock. Just gives it a little more pop and color. With the EBR stock, it's just full black and it's just sort of black blob in my sort of eyes. But overall, with the steel bolt, haven't noticed too much of a difference in rate of fire. If it is slower, it's slower by very little, hardly noticeable. But that steel bolt, just, I don't know if the camera is gonna be able to pick it up, but the way it sort of clinks against the receiver, you can definitely tell the difference between the steel bolt and the pot metal bolt that they had. So I don't know if you could hear that, but it sounds a lot nicer, especially when firing. And M14s with a stock bolt still fire and sound really nice, but this is just cherry on top. I also didn't mention I have the RA-Tech real bolt function in this one, or do I? No, I don't. I have it in my M14, I believe. So I can't lock the bolt by pushing this like you can with a real bolt function. I thought about changing it up and putting it in here, but I think if I were to use more standard mags with bolt lock, this is nicer. So yeah, that is my RA Tech gas blowback M14 SOCOM 16-inch version. And it's a beast.